to tell you a story. But first, wait a minute. Ready, set, go. Well, hello glue troopers, and welcome back to the Tarbus, where I actually got some work done today. Okay, for starters, V2 got painted, the base white coat. Now, I used regular Rust-Oleum that I had left over because it was the only white paint I had left in sufficient amount, and I was promptly punished for that. Now, I knew when this isn't the Rust-Oleum 2X that dries pretty quickly. This is straight up white primer Rust-Oleum, and it did put a nice thick heavy primer and white coat at one time. That it did fine. Unfortunately, it did two other things. One, because it's such a heavy paint, it obliterated some of the scribing detail. It also exposed a seam that I didn't know I had, so you know, so I still got to putty it up and touch it up again. But the reason that I used this was simply a matter of I had it. The hobby shop was closed today. I knew it would take a couple of days to harden. I'm going to give that at least 2, probably 3 days to harden. Based on my past experience, that's how long it takes, but it puts a really nice heavy coat on there, so it's one coat does the trick. Once I'm convinced that it's thoroughly hardened, I'll patch up that seam, touch it up, and then clear coat it and put on so I can put on the masking tape to the low tack tape to put on the black sections. The fin that I used to grab it is the fin that's going to be solid black, so I wasn't worried about that. Now, I also painted the Corporal missile. Now, originally I was going to paint it white and put it in the test colors because against the olive drab vehicle that really pops and looks good. But then I realized that's a test color. The actual deployed Corporals are olive drab. And recently a glue trooper sent me some pictures that his dad had taken, I believe he said in '62, of a Corporal missile being set up, and it was a lot of really good photographs. I was like, you know, that's what it should look like. So I'm going to put it in the tactical OD green, and that'll be more of an actual fielded missile. And the vehicle that comes with it, and I got to talk about the Corporal missile from Revell for a minute. There's 4 sections of this. There's the missile itself, there's a launching pad, there's the tow vehicle and trailer mechanism and crane mechanism, which is sort of all one, and then you have some ancillary parts on the side, the people and a little radar unit and stuff. And so, but the vehicle comes itself comes in 3 major units of the vehicle, which the actual transporter and the crane erector system all go together as one unit. But the launcher, which is a completely separate unit, which comes with it and is very detailed, you have to decide early on, do I want to make the launcher spread it out like I'm going to put the missile on it? Because you can put the missile on the launcher, or you can have the launcher folded up for transport. So it allows you several ways to display it, but you have to decide fairly early in the build process which way you're going to go with it. It's not like the Renwall kit where you can, a few of the parts do move, but you can't just keep going back and forth with it. So pick a lane. I'm probably going to have it in the transport mode. So the V2 underway. I got the stand for the V2 painted, and I got that wooden platform painted a wood color, which in the photo doesn't really do it justice. It looks like it's reflective, probably because the green's reflecting around it, but that is actually wood painted around that square piece, as it should be. Remember, if you're going to set the missile up like it's in launch configuration, that square wooden piece would already be removed. So, a couple of cool things I learned today. I working on the rocket, especially when the V1 got off, and it's been curing for 6 hours, and it's still as tacky as tape. So I decided, you know what, I just want a little low stress, relaxing build that I just have some fun with without taking it too seriously. So I went ahead and built that Wait a Minute, the Hawk Weirdos kit that was sent to me, and a very easy kit, had a lot of fun painting it. I went with the orange safety vest, instead of the red that was but you can paint however you want. It's a weirdo, and it looks pretty cool. Came out good. I'm happy with him. So he'll go over there by Freddy Flameout, and so thanks for that. That was a nice little get away from it. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is you guys remember the movie Titanic, which came out, was it 95s and mid-90s? And we all know they built that big 9/10 scale Titanic with a rotating rear end, a gigantic set, and they literally hired little people to run around on it. All this just incredible movie, some CGI and a lot of other stuff. What I didn't realize was they had also built a 44-foot, highly detailed museum quality miniature for a lot of the shots. Now, this is a story that just warms the cockles of a model lover's heart. And you guys know I'm addicted to Sense of Scale, the Pierce Films channel. I'm going to put a link below. They interviewed the guy. He also, at the same time he was doing this 44-foot model plus a model of the sunken Titanic, that while he was doing these, he was also doing, was it the Fifth Element, the Earth spaceships with the Fifth Element, and I think he was doing Dante's Peak, especially the big river scene. So, and he gets a little bit how they made the model cars from scratch, and it's artwork, really. But back to Titanic. So it turned out that Cameron, who's a real stickler for detail, and I'm going to have you go watch, I'm just going to give you the bullet points. He wanted to be as accurate as possible, and they were having trouble getting drawings. They found an artist who had a lot of drawings of Titanic, but in the end, the big 44-foot model largely wound up being patterned after the Revell model Titanic. Okay, so they got a Revell model that showed them where all the little, the davits went and everything. So and how many windows they needed and all that stuff. So that was basically their pattern for it. Now they actually went into model manufacturing because they had to make a whole bunch of davits and those sort of horn-shaped ventilators and everything, and all this stuff that had to go in the ship and all the lifeboats. So they had to make patterns and molds and casts and everything. Incredible detail. Like I said, museum quality, but it gets better. There's one more thing to make model builders happy, folks like us. They literally, the job was so big, they just did not have enough model builders, enough artisans to do the trick. So they wound up going to like model swap meets and hobby shops and model shows, and just finding people like you and me, model builders who had some model building skills, and asked if they would come work for them temporarily to get this thing built. So that big 44-foot model was largely built by folks like us. Oh, that's great. I love that. Is that not too cool? So go watch the video. The whole thing's good. But it's actually one of Pierce Films' longer ones, but it's it's worth it. If you decide to build this Revell Corporal missile with the transporter, which so far has gone together very well, a couple other little warnings about it. Definitely read ahead in the instructions a little bit, because absolutely nothing in this model is intuitive. This is the weirdest little vehicle. I spent 10-15 minutes looking for one of the tarpaulin covers. There's two passenger compartments, one-man passenger compartments for the drivers of the vehicle, and I think one's a driver and one's the operator. But anyway, these being military vehicles of the period, they have tarp coverings over the positions, and I found one and I couldn't find the other one. I was like, man, it's a big piece. I know I didn't lose it. Turns out, go ahead a couple of steps in the instructions, they have one of them that's fully covered and one of them that's basically pulled down where only a little of it's covered. So you're looking for two different pieces. So that's one thing. Also, like I say, read ahead on the instructions a couple of steps, because absolutely nothing on this model is intuitive. It's just because it's such an unusual vehicle. Well, except for the wheels, they go together without any argument, and they're pretty obvious. But all I'm saying is they did a pretty good job of making sure you can only, the alignment pins, you can only put the parts together one way, but some things don't have alignment pins, like where these separators, the blast deflectors go into the base. So that's a little, look at a bunch of different pictures and try to figure it out. That's a little iffy. Anyway, but overall, good kit, and I'm really enjoying the build. It's going to be one of the more unusual vehicles. I've gotten to a point where I have to stop because I have to paint it now before I go any further, or I won't be able to access some of the parts. So fair bit of flash on it, but not a big deal. And that's really the only problem with it. It overall fits good. The instructions could use a little improvement, but hey, it's a model. We adapt and overcome. I know most of you guys know what movie that's from. They adapted and overcame. So that's what I got for tonight, guys. I certainly hope you're having a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves. Look forward to seeing you soon. I've got a interview to do tonight. If all goes according to Hoyle, I'll have that up in a couple of days. And from someone who's got a lot of time in the model industry, who's got a lot of really interesting things to say. And I think I'm kind of saving that as a surprise. So, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you later. And as always, model on. Okay, what does that say? God, man, I'm writing notes I can't read. What M root? What? Wait. Oh, already. Wait a minute. I just told you about that.